You arrived just in time. Do you hear that wind? It's blowing from the north today, cold, cutting. The same kind of wind from that night in New Hampshire. Sit close to the fire, my friend. And if you brought something warm to drink, you're going to need it. Because today, I'm going to tell you what I saw in that abandoned house. And the worst part is, I've never forgotten what I saw inside. The house stood at the end of a dirt road, surrounded by pine trees and the heaviest silence I've ever felt. They said it had been abandoned after a fire, but no one talked about why. I was 17, and I thought ghost stories were just meant to scare children. When I entered, the air was thick, smelling of burnt wood and ancient mold. The floor creaked under my steps, and the walls were covered with marks, as if someone had tried to get out, scratching the paint with their nails. Inside, I found a mirror, dusty, broken in one corner. But when I looked at it, I didn't see my reflection. I saw someone behind me. A pale face, sunken eyes, mouth open, as if screaming but without any sound. When I turned around, there was no one there. To this day, I swear I still hear that whisper, the same one I heard when I ran out of that house. You looked in the wrong place. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning. Let me tell you how I ended up in that house in the first place, and why I should never have gone there. It was October 1994. I was a senior in high school, and like most 17-year-olds, I thought I was invincible. My friends and I had this tradition. Every Halloween season, we'd explore abandoned places. Old factories, closed down hospitals, empty farmhouses. It was stupid, I know, but at that age, fear felt like a game. Something to conquer, not something to respect. The house in New Hampshire had been on our list for months. Everyone at school talked about it. The local legend said a family had died there in a fire back in the 70s. Some versions of the story claimed it was an accident. Others said it was murder. A few even whispered about something darker, something that had nothing to do with fire or people at all. My friend Jake had driven past it once with his older brother. He said the house looked like it was waiting for something, not falling apart like most abandoned places, but standing, watching. His brother wouldn't even slow down the car. That should have been our first warning. But we were young and stupid, and convinced we knew better than everyone who'd come before us. So on October 23rd, 4 of us piled into my beat-up Toyota and drove out there. Me, Jake, my girlfriend Sarah, and her best friend Monica. We brought flashlights, a camera, and enough bravado to fill the car twice over. The drive took about 40 minutes. The last 10 minutes were on a dirt road that didn't appear on any map. Tree branches scraped against the car windows. The headlights barely penetrated the darkness between those massive pines. And then we saw it. The house materialized out of the darkness, like something from a nightmare. 2 stories tall, gray with weather by time and weather. Most of the windows were intact, which was strange. Usually, abandoned places get vandalized, windows broken, doors kicked in. But this house looked preserved, like someone was taking care of it, or like something inside didn't want visitors to see in. The front door was slightly ajar, just a few inches, just enough to be inviting. Jake wanted to leave immediately. "This doesn't feel right," he said. "Let's just go back." But Sarah was already out of the car, camera in hand. "Don't be a baby. It's just an old house." Monica followed her. I looked at Jake. He shook his head, but got out anyway. Neither of us wanted to look scared in front of the girls. The moment we stepped onto the porch, the temperature dropped. I could see my breath misting in the air. The wooden boards beneath our feet didn't creak. They groaned, like something in pain. Sarah pushed the door open wider. It moved smoothly, silently. No rusty hinges. No resistance. Inside was darkness. Our flashlights seemed weaker somehow, like the darkness was pushing back against the light. "Hello," Sarah called out. Her voice echoed strangely, like the house was much bigger inside than it appeared from outside. No one answered. Of course no one answered. What were we expecting? We moved through the front hallway. To our left, a living room with furniture still in place. A couch covered in dust. A coffee table with magazines from the 70s spread across it. To our right, a dining room with chairs pulled out from the table, as if the family had just stood up and walked away in the middle of dinner. The smell was overwhelming. Burnt wood, yes, but underneath that was something else. Something sweet and rotten that made my stomach turn. The fire was supposed to destroy everything, Monica whispered. Why is all this furniture still here? Good question. A question none of us wanted to answer. We moved deeper into the house. Jake stayed close to the door, clearly wanting an easy exit. Sarah led the way, taking pictures, narrating like she was filming a documentary. Monica and I followed, our flashlights sweeping the walls. That's when I noticed the marks. Long scratches in the wallpaper and the wood beneath. Dozens of them. Hundreds. All along the hallway, leading toward the stairs. Someone tried to claw their way out, I said. Or something tried to claw its way in, Jake replied. We reached the stairs. They led up into complete darkness. Our flashlights couldn't penetrate it. It was like looking into a solid black wall. I'm not going up there, Jake said firmly. Sarah rolled her eyes. Fine. Stay here. We'll be right back. Sarah, maybe we should... I started, but she was already climbing the stairs. Monica followed. And because I was 17 and stupid, and didn't want to lose my girlfriend, I followed too. The stairs didn't creak. They were silent. Wrong. Everything about this house was wrong. At the top of the stairs was a hallway with 3 doors. 2 were closed. One was open, and in that open doorway, I could see something reflecting our flashlight beams. A mirror, large, ornate, with a golden frame, standing in what appeared to be a bedroom. It was the only thing in the entire house that wasn't covered in dust. It was clean, pristine, like someone had just polished it. Sarah walked toward it, camera raised. This is amazing. Look at this thing. Don't, I said. I don't know why I said it. Some instinct, some deep, primal part of my brain screaming at me to get out of that house. But Sarah was already standing in front of it. She raised her camera to take a picture of her reflection. And that's when I saw it. In the mirror, behind Sarah, behind all of us. A pale face, sunken eyes, mouth open in a silent scream. But when I turned around, there was nothing there. If you're enjoying this story, stay a little closer to the fire and subscribe to the channel. And tell me, would you have the courage to enter an abandoned house alone? Now, where was I? Oh yes, the mirror. Sarah lowered her camera, frowning. Did you guys see that? See what? Monica asked, her voice tight with fear. In the mirror, there was... I thought I saw... Sarah trailed off, staring at her reflection. I couldn't take my eyes off that mirror, because now that I was looking directly at it, I could see that something was wrong with the reflections. We were all there, Sarah, Monica, and me, but our reflections were slightly off. They moved a fraction of a second after we did, like they were copying us, not mirroring us. We need to leave, I said. Now. Monica nodded quickly. Yeah, this place is seriously creeping me out. But Sarah was mesmerized. She stepped closer to the mirror, reaching out to touch the glass. There's something written on it. Look. I moved closer, reluctantly. She was right. Scratched into the glass, so faint you could barely see it, were words. They're still here. A crash from downstairs made us all jump. Then Jake's voice panicked. Guys, we need to go. Now. We ran. Down the hallway. Down those silent stairs, toward the front door where Jake was standing, white as a sheet, pointing at the living room. All the furniture had moved. The couch was now facing the door. The chairs from the dining room were arranged in a circle in the middle of the living room floor. And in the center of that circle was a pile of photographs. Old photographs. Polaroids. And they were all of us. Pictures of Sarah taking photos upstairs. Pictures of me looking at the scratches on the walls. Pictures of Monica and Jake by the front door. Pictures taken from angles that were impossible. From corners where no one was standing. From positions where no camera could have been. The most recent photo, sitting on top of the pile, showed all 4 of us standing at the bottom of the stairs, looking at the photographs. The photo we were in right now, taken from behind us. We ran. Out the door, across the porch, into the car. Jake's hands were shaking so badly he could barely get the key in the ignition. The engine roared to life, and we tore down that dirt road faster than was safe. Branches scraping the car, gravel flying. None of us spoke. None of us looked back. Not until we were on the highway, under streetlights, surrounded by other cars and normal people living normal lives. What the hell was that? Monica finally whispered. Nobody answered. What could we say? We made a pact that night. We'd never talk about the house. Never go back. Never tell anyone what we'd seen. We'd just forget it happened and move on with our lives. But here's the thing about pacts like that. They're easy to make and impossible to keep. After that night, I started having dreams. Always the same dream. I'd be back in that house, standing in front of the mirror, and in the reflection, I'd see that pale face behind me, those sunken eyes, that open mouth. But in the dreams, I could hear what was saying. Over and over, a whisper that made my blood run cold. You looked in the wrong place. You looked in the wrong place. You looked in the wrong place. The dreams got worse, more detailed, more real. I'd wake up smelling that sweet, rotten smell. I'd find dust on my shoes that I couldn't explain. Once, I woke up with scratches on my arms. The same pattern as the scratches on the walls of that house. Sarah broke up with me 3 weeks later. She said I'd changed. Said I was obsessed. Said she couldn't sleep because I'd wake her up every night, talking in my sleep about mirrors and faces and houses that shouldn't exist. I tried to move on. Tried to forget. But the dreams wouldn't stop. So I did something stupid. Something I'd promised myself I'd never do. I went to the local library and looked up the history of that house. What I found made everything worse. The house had indeed burned down in 1972. A family of 4, parents and 2 young daughters. The fire started in the middle of the night. By the time the fire department arrived, it was too late. The entire family was dead. But here's what the newspaper articles didn't mention. What I had to dig through old police reports and witness statements to find. The family's bodies were all found in the upstairs bedroom, the one with the mirror, and they weren't burned. They died before the fire even started. The coroner's report said they died of asphyxiation, like they'd been suffocated, but there were no signs of smoke inhalation, no carbon monoxide, no explanation for how 4 people could suffocate in a room with open windows and a door. And here's the detail that made my hands shake as I read. Every single body had scratches on their arms, their faces, their necks, like they'd been clawing at themselves, or like something had been clawing at them. The house was supposed to have been demolished after the fire. The land was supposed to have been cleared and sold. But somehow, it never happened. The property remained in a legal limbo for decades. No one could agree on who owned it. Every lawyer who tried to handle the case quit within weeks, citing personal reasons. And the mirror? The fire marshal's report specifically mentioned it. Large antique mirror found intact in master bedroom. Origin unknown. Recommend disposal. But the mirror was never disposed of. It was never removed. According to the records, it was still in that house, waiting. I sat in that library for hours, reading everything I could find. And that's when I discovered something that made me feel like I was falling through ice. There had been other incidents. Before the family, before the fire. In 1958, a couple bought the property and built the house. They moved in with their teenage son. 6 months later, all 3 were found dead. Same circumstances. Upstairs bedroom. Asphyxiation. No explanation. Before that, in 1923, there had been a smaller house on the same land. A murder-suicide. Before that, in 1881, a farmhouse. An entire household dead under mysterious circumstances. The land itself was cursed, or haunted, or home to something that had been there long before any humans built anything on it. And that mirror, it kept appearing in the reports. Different descriptions. Sometimes gold frame, sometimes silver, sometimes wood, but always a large mirror, always in the bedroom, always intact, always waiting. I closed the books and left the library, drove home in a daze. That night, I had the worst dream yet. In the dream, I was back in the house. But this time I was alone. No friends. No flashlights. Just me and that mirror. I tried to leave, but every door I opened led back to that bedroom. Every window I tried to climb through brought me back to that mirror. The house wouldn't let me go. And in the reflection, that pale face appeared again. But this time, it spoke clearly. You looked in the wrong place. You should have looked at yourself. I looked at my reflection, really looked at it, and I saw something that made me scream. My reflection was smiling, but I wasn't smiling. My reflection's eyes were black pits, but my eyes were normal. My reflection reached out toward the glass, fingers pressing against it from the other side, and then it pushed through. I woke up screaming, covered in sweat, my heart hammering, and I knew with absolute certainty that I had to go back to that house. I had to face whatever was in that mirror, because it wasn't done with me. It would never be done with me, not unless I confronted it. So I went back, alone, in broad daylight this time. I told myself daylight would make it better, safer. I was wrong. The house looked different in daylight, smaller, more pathetic, just a run-down old building that should have been torn down decades ago. I almost laughed at how scared I'd been, but when I pushed open that front door, the temperature dropped just like before. The smell hit me, burnt wood and sweet rot, and I knew that daylight didn't matter. Whatever was in this house didn't care about the sun. I walked straight to the stairs, straight up to that bedroom. The mirror was waiting for me, just like I knew it would be. I stood in front of it, forcing myself to look, to really look, and this time I understood. The face I'd seen wasn't behind me. It was me, a version of me that had stayed in this house, a version of me that had looked in the mirror that first night and never left, because that's what the mirror did. It showed you a choice, a moment, a path not taken, and if you looked long enough, if you stayed close enough, it would swap you. The you in the reflection would take your place, and you would stay in the mirror forever. The family that died in 1972, they were still in the mirror. The couple from 1958, the victims from 1923 and 1881, all of them trapped in the glass, looking out at a world they could no longer touch. And they wanted company. They needed someone else to look, someone else to stay. I backed away from the mirror slowly. The reflection smiled at me, that same terrible smile from my dreams. Its hand pressed against the glass, pushing. The glass bowed outward like plastic, like it was about to break. I ran. For the second time in my life, I ran from that house. But this time, I knew I couldn't just run away, because it had seen me. The mirror had seen me, and it would keep calling me back until I either gave in or found a way to break its hold. I never went back to New Hampshire after that. I moved to California for college, then to Oregon, then to Washington, as far from that house as I could get. But I never stopped having the dreams. And every October, on the anniversary of that night, I'd wake up with the smell of burnt wood in my nostrils and dust on my shoes. Last year, I hired someone to check on the house, a local researcher who didn't ask too many questions. I just wanted to know if it was still standing. It was exactly as I remembered it, exactly as it had been in 1972, as if time had stopped for that place. But my researcher sent me something that chilled me to my core, a photograph he'd taken from outside through one of the upstairs windows. The mirror was clearly visible, and in the mirror, even though the room was empty, there were reflections, dozens of them, faces pressed against the glass from the inside, looking out, looking for the next person to invite in. And in the front of all those faces, the clearest one was mine. Not my current face, but my 17-year-old face. The face I had the night I first looked in that mirror. A part of me never left that house. A part of me is still standing in front of that mirror, looking at myself, not realizing the danger until it's too late. Since then, I've never looked at a mirror at night. I cover every reflective surface in my house after dark. I avoid windows after sunset, because I know that if I look too long, if I stare too hard, I might see the house reflected behind me. I might see that bedroom, that mirror, and I might see myself trapped on the other side, begging to be let out. So if you're ever driving to the back roads of New Hampshire and you see an old gray house at the end of a dirt road with intact windows and a door slightly ajar, keep driving. Don't stop. Don't look. And whatever you do, don't go inside. Because that mirror is still there, still waiting, still collecting reflections of people who looked in the wrong place at the wrong time. And if you do go in, if you do look in that mirror, remember this. The reflection you see might not be you anymore. It might be the version of you that stayed behind. The version that will spend eternity trapped in glass, watching the world move on without you. The fire remembers what the living try to forget, and I only tell what it shows me. Until next time, may your reflections always match your movements, and may the mirrors in your life show you only truth. Good night.